we have given a lot of praise to CJ Stroud for one of considering the opponent, considering the stage, one of the most impressive performances of his career as a starting quarterback. We've given a lot of praise to Ohio State, and noted the places where they got a bad break. What did Georgia do well?
Didn't
create
panic.
Explosive plays.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go, Tom.
No, you go. They didn't panic. They created explosive plays. They got what's his name wide open in the fourth quarter by about 40 yards. I mean, the one thing that I was really critical of was Kirby when he went for it on that 4th and 6, and Brock Bowers showed off the Pilates work by stretching to get that first down. But then when they're facing the 4th and goal from the 13, and I get it was 4th and goal from the 13, but I was like, well, if it was such a must-have on 4th and 6, why are you settling for the field goal? Because if you don't get the touchdown even on 4th and 13, you're in the same position you were willing to be in on 4th and 6 2 seconds ago. I thought that was a terrible decision. It didn't burn them. It still worked out for me in the end. So maybe I'm just an idiot, but other than that, I mean, they were down 14 and we talked about it a little bit.
Counted them out 3 different times in the game, and they still are playing for the national championship in Los Angeles on January 9th.
You counted them out 3 times. I didn't count them out.
I will say, I think the difference in going for it 4th and 6 and going for it 4th and 13 is where you stick the opponent if you don't get it. Because like the reciprocal value of the field position, right? Like if you stick somebody inside their own 5, the next expected points in the game are actually coming from you, not the team with the ball. Like if you look at the chart, whereas if you're outside of the 10, it's a lot more neutral.
He probably is considering that, but I just don't want to believe for a moment that Kirby Smart is ever like, well, what are the expected points at the field position?
If he has a damn punt team alignment polo shirt specialist, he's got a guy that has the championship analytics chart subscription, and Kirby may not have ever seen the chart, but this guy's job is to memorize it and pick all the possible situations and do the little abacus. Coach, you got to kick it here.
I just need to believe that Kirby Smart has no idea what expected points means. He just says yes or no, and then the guy says no. He says, okay. That's all Kirby wants to know.
I thought the more egregious one was actually the one in the first half. Like, that was back when they still had Harrison. I think at that point, it was very clear you were going to need to score more than 40 points to win the game. And honestly, like, you may need something that starts with a 5 to win the game. And probably do if Harrison doesn't get hurt. So that one I thought was actually
late, like right before halftime.
Like there was like 2 minutes left when
1:44 left.
Yeah.
And
Fowler's all talking. He's like, well, it's so important that they grab the lead. I'm like, the lead lasted 40 seconds. The most important lead is the lead that you either have or do not have at the final.
Then CJ Stroud leads a touchdown drive to respond. Yeah, fair.
Don't we have to give a ton of credit to Stetson Bennett? I mean, he went toe to toe with a guy. He was bad for stretches, but when they needed him to, and then look at the final stat line. Was phenomenal. Like he kept him in the game. He had the game-winning drive. The touchdown pass to put him up was beautiful. Like he's kind of been Stetson Bennett. Like it's not the prettiest when it's all said and done, but he gets it done. But it was phenomenal. And I thought one of the reasons they don't
have Danny.
Because when they decided to
because Kirby, what Kirby said to the sideline reporter was pretty hot. So I'd love to have Kirby mic'd up for what he actually said to Stetson when he yanked over there.
Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest first half. But I think when we say like Ohio State didn't panic, I think a lot of that is a reflection of their confidence in Stetson Bennett. You know, like that leadership from a 25-year-old veteran quarterback who's won a national championship already. They're like, hey, no big deal. We'll be fine. And they were.
Look at the 2 quarterbacks. Like we're talking about who's going to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft this year, Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Stetson Bennett has now beaten both of them in college football playoff games. He beat Bryce Young in a title game. He beat CJ Stroud in a semifinal. He's not going to be a first-round pick. He's a tremendous college quarterback who's done wonderful things for Georgia. And also, one thing I want to point out, we've talked about it with TCU this year. How many games they beat after knocking out starting quarterbacks. Last year, Jamison Williams goes down. Georgia beats Alabama in the title game. Tonight, Marvin Harrison gets knocked out of the game. What happens afterwards?
Yeah.
Georgia, they are 2 wide receivers, but TCU is the quarterbacks.
Quentin Johnston in bubble wrap, please.
Yeah.
Speaking of
receivers, last thing.
Oh yeah,
Eddie Mitchell, I do think changes Georgia's offense. Like I'm worried with them in that Washington, but if you listen to the Junkyard Dogcast, which shout out Dogs 247, preseason they were like, hey, Eddie Mitchell is the dude that our defensive backs can't cover, and that's a long high ankle sprain injury, 9 weeks to miss. But I mean, Georgia clearly does not love its receiver room. Georgia didn't take a single transfer this last year. They've already taken 2 this year. Dominic Lovett from Missouri, who leads the SEC in receiving, and Ra Thomas out of Mississippi State. But Eddie Mitchell's the one dude who is like an NFL legit high draft pick if he hits type guy in that room right now. And for them to have him healthy, he could not have come at a better time after losing Washington. Yeah, Delp's a fine player, but he's not a 1-to-1 or even close to replacement for what Washington gives you.
I love the potential of Darnell Washington. I think the absence of Darnell is a bigger impact on their run game right now than their passing attack.
Well, TCU specifically here, assuming that they don't have Washington because he was on crutches, right? If you had to face that was going to be a nightmare for that 3-3 because that would get you out of your stacks with the quickness. And now you will face a little bit more wide open Georgia thing, which fits you a little bit better. Like I really was thinking there's the reason why TCU does not want to play Georgia, in my opinion, if they had Washington, is that's not the kind of defense I think you want to run against that.
Well, I thought that was what Michigan was going to be able to successfully do, is run 12 personnel and
maul them.
Yeah, but the Schoonmaker injury, I think, kind of messed that up a little bit.
They also don't have 2 that are anywhere close. Like none of Michigan's tight ends would start for Georgia.
Yeah, you can't go Schoonmaker and Lovett.
They'd already lost Eric All, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you can't do that.